and I actually have quite a few things in common on top of the fact that we're both, dark hair, ruggedly handsome young men.
Exactly.
We also live the nightmare of having 4 children.
We do. I recently learned you have 4 kids,
I
I've been talking about that a lot.
Hey guys, it's Chris Beery from Beery Nice Homes team and Beery TV. I'm really excited about this first episode. The series is going to cover all of Arlington. It's going to cover local politicians. It's going to cover businesses and restaurants, what's to eat here, where to live, where you should live, what kind of houses we've got. So right now I'm going to be interviewing Louis Stefanos. He's running for probate court number 1 here in Tarrant County. Hi guys, my name is Chris Beery. I'm a realtor here in Arlington with Keller Williams Realty and the Beery Nice Homes team. I have the pleasure of being with my friend Louis Stefanos. He is actually a very involved member here at a lot of Arlington events and different communities around here. And I thought it'd be really interesting if we could have him in here and ask a few questions. Thanks for being with us, Louis.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So when did you first come to the Arlington area?
I came to the Arlington, Tarrant County area actually on a first date with my now wife. I went to undergrad in Midwestern State in Wichita Falls, and that's where I met her. And then she told me that she lived down in Kennedale, so we came here on our first date and went all over the city, and I really enjoyed Tarrant County. So we decided after we got married that this is where we're going to set up home.
And you and I actually have quite a few things in common on top of the fact that we're both, dark hair, ruggedly handsome young men.
Exactly.
We also live the nightmare of having 4 children.
We do. I recently learned you have 4 kids,
I've
been talking about that a lot.
Good. I'm glad. I like to tell people quite a bit because then it tends to up the pity level a little bit for me.
It makes us feel older too.
It really does. So how old are they?
9, 7, 5, and 2. The baby just turned 2 on February 2nd. So.
Did he really?
Yeah.
My birthday's February 3rd.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day baby.
Yeah. The least significant of the American holidays.
So.
And then here we are on one of the most significant. It's President's Day today. That's pretty cool. And so tomorrow starts early voting for. Is it all of Tarrant County or is it just Arlington?
All of Tarrant County, yeah. If you live in Tarrant County, there's a bunch of different races depending on where you live in the county. So yeah, tomorrow's the big day, the day we've all been leading up to. It runs through March 2nd, and then primary election day is actually on March 6th. So the polls will be open starting tomorrow through March 2nd at various times. And then March 6th, they'll reopen for the primary day.
Okay, so you're going for probate judge. What exactly does a probate judge do?
So the probate court has jurisdiction over decedents' estates, guardianship, mental health, and any type of cases related to decedents' estates or guardianship. So the most basic example I could give you would be probating a will. So if a family member passes away, you have a will, you go down to the courthouse and you probate it. And then we could be here for another couple hours talking about everything else that the court does. But guardianship-wise, it's someone with cognitive disabilities where they can't manage themselves, their medications, they can't determine where they live, drive, but also they can't handle their finances. So most of the people we see are at a point where they're being exploited by family members, or that they have no powers of attorney, so they need someone to make medical and financial decisions for them.
Okay, wow. So this isn't even, when you said guardianship, I assumed you were talking about, parents pass away and you're having to handle where who the children go to and things like that.
So that's more conservatorship in the family court. That when it does come into the guardianship is when a minor dies and both of a minor's parents pass away. So generally the law provides that if you're a minor and you have parents, they're your natural guardian, so you don't need guardianship. But if something happens and your parents pass away, which I've dealt with a couple of cases, then we have to determine whether it's going to be aunt, uncle, or grandparent who's going to be your guardian. Okay.
And is that something that people typically write into their wills? Is that a pretty easy
You can write into your will, or you can also do a declaration of guardian for child. So the parents actually get a choice to recommend to the court who they would pick. And then even someone who's over 18 can write a declaration of guardian to suggest who
goes for a little brother or sister.
Whether they want their wife. Most likely it's the spouse who they want to be their guardian, but sometimes if they're not married, which child do they want to be making decisions for them, both from a medical standpoint and from a financial standpoint.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And sometimes it's different because they might have a child that's a nurse.
Right.
and then they have a child that's a banker.
Nurse is probably more well suited.
And the nurse is going to make the medical decision.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. So then I'm guessing, so like the prerequisites for this position would be, I'm guessing you're a probate attorney as well. How long have you been an attorney?
So I started off my probate world actually working for the judge. I was a staff attorney for him from 2011 to 2013, and I worked on all of his contested cases that came through the court. After that, I worked at Shannon, Gracie, Ratliff, and Miller, and Pope Hardwick, and in our estate planning, probate, and trust section. So yes, this is what I do on an everyday basis.
Man, I still can't get over like law firms. Just like it, so, is it basically like you see it on like the law TV shows and things like that? So what, like somebody gets partner and they tack their name onto the firm? Is that what is that?
I would imagine. Yeah, Pope Hardwick is Pope Hardwick, Christie, Shell, Kelly, and Taplin, and they actually are an Arlington firm.
Yeah.
Arlington now in Arlington.
Yeah.
And in Fort Worth. Our office is in the ballpark in Arlington. So yeah, I guess if you're equity partner or name partner and you have a bigger stake, then you get your name.
I just like
sometimes also it's a branding. Shannon Gracie was Shannon Gracie, Ratliff, and Miller.
Right.
Even though there were a bunch of equity partners, it's a branding thing, kind of like Keller Williams.
Sure.
There might be a bunch of y'all realtors that have a significant stake, but Keller Williams is the name, and that's the.
I gotcha. But how long? So how long have you been an attorney? Because you're relatively young.
So I was licensed in November of 2009.
Okay. Wow. And so how old were you when you got licensed?
I was 23.
Oh wow. So you went.
No, 25.
Okay, so you went straight out of college?
I think 25, 26.
Where did you go? You said you
went... undergrad, Midwestern State University.
Okay.
And then I took a year off. I actually worked in the hospitality food service industry for Aramark at University of Texas at Dallas, because my family was in the restaurant business. They owned restaurants growing up, so I thought, I wanted to do that too, but decided to go to law school in Florida Coastal School of Law in Jacksonville. So moved there August of 2006. We got married in November of 2006. I moved back after John was born in January of 2009.
Okay.
And got a house in Mansfield. So
wow, that's crazy. So you guys actually got married in Florida?
No, we got married at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Fort Worth.
Okay, cool.
But it was during school. So literally, I flew back on Halloween.
Right. Yeah.
We got married that Saturday night. I flew back on Sunday because I had law school on Monday.
Wow.
And then she came, I think, a couple of weeks later with a couple of friends. They drove cross country and.
So she was living up here when you were
living up here, yes.
Wow. Yeah. So she was still working for full time at John Peter Smith, and you were going to law school.
She joked with me because when I graduated from undergrad, I moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
And she was still up in Wichita Falls, and then when she finally graduated from Wichita Falls, I moved to Florida. She's like, "You're never in the same city as me." So.
That's a long and healthy marriage strategy. Okay, so you've been an attorney, so you got licensed in 2009, so you're pushing 10 years almost. You almost got a decade in the...
it'd be 9 years this November.
Okay, and then as far as were you working at all when you were in college or in...
I always had a job. I was a resident assistant in college, so I worked on the campus for 3.5 years. I was a marketing intern for Aramark. That's kind of how I got started with Aramark. So no, my family lineage is we work hard and we always work. So
I like it. I'm the same way. I got my first job. I interviewed for it 3 weeks before I turned 16. The lady had been promising. It was actually the Starbucks right next to St. Vincent de Paul on Little Road. Yeah. The manager at that Starbucks had been telling me pretty much since I was 8 years old, because my dad went in there every morning, that when you turn 16, you can have a job here. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, I went and interviewed for 3 weeks before I turned 15. She hired me on the spot, started on my 16th birthday, and I haven't had a break in a job since, until pretty much I got my real estate license. And now
my first job after college was managing a Starbucks.
Really?
I managed the first I was told it was the first Starbucks on a college campus.
Oh, neat.
And we had it in an apartment complex. So the apartment leasing company or holding company bought out. They took their I guess what you call your leasing office, and we turned it into a Starbucks. We had a fireplace before fireplaces were cool in Starbucks. It was a neat little concept.
I'm sure that little bit of a caffeine kick helped quite a bit while you were there too.
Yeah.
So in probate, do you ever have I don't know, how at liberty are you to discuss any of those cases? I mean, not obviously specifics, but do you have like a most interesting case or a most taxing case or anything like that?
Yeah, everything's public record.
Okay.
So I mean, the cases that are sealed are cases involving minors that we won't normally talk about. You can seal a case if it involves someone with a lot of money and they're under a guardianship. Those are the cases, or people that have a lot of money but have lived a really frugal life, so you don't know them as someone in the community that's worth millions of dollars. Then sometimes like that, the court will seal inventories or seal the case, so that nobody can go in and take advantage of these people, because that's what happens sometimes when husbands die, is they'll come in and prey upon the spouse who's 80 and had no idea that they were worth millions of dollars, because in the older days the husbands took care of the money.
Right.
And sometimes wives didn't really understand how
What's
much they were worth until the end. So I have an Arlington case that I like to talk about. They were old lottery winners. They were one of the last couples to win the Texas Millions lottery.
Wow.
So them and another couple split the money. They went on this traveling binge, and they lived in Wimbledon, actually.
Really?
They lived in Wimbledon, and
Okay.
I was appointed as an attorney ad litem, as the guardian ad litem in the case, because there was exploitation that was being suspected by a caregiver.
Okay.
What eventually had happened is that his wife had got cancer, and wife took care of all the money because he had severe COPD.
Okay.
And so they needed a caregiver to come in.
Right.
One caregiver recommended another, and he was helping them out. But then when wife died, mom, essentially dad, started being taken advantage of by this caregiver. So caregiver was giving him his sleeping pills early in the morning, so making him drowsy, and then he took his checkbook and would give it to the individual and have him sign his name on every signature line. So he was literally walking around with a blank checkbook. Niece finally came into town to visit, realized something was going on. She hung around a couple extra weeks. Got an attorney involved, which is how I got appointed. So I went in with some Arlington PD and detectives and Adult Protective Services to interview him, because the caregiver wouldn't let us in without cops being there.
Wow.
And we ended up getting him a guardianship. So he has a trust now that's taking care of his finances. We weren't able to get everything back because a lot of stuff was pawned all along Cooper Street. So this stuff happens in your neighborhood, folks. So, and it's not the neighborhoods that you think. This was a really nice, affluent neighborhood.
Yeah,
in Wimbledon,
especially Wimbledon. Yeah, that's actually we sold a house not too long ago over there. One of the open houses we did, it was the funniest thing. When we go into our open houses, we do a little bit of cleanup, and sitting on just the countertop there was some mail, and we go to put it away, and I realized that the name on the envelope was Rugnit Odor.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, wow. And for those of you who don't know who Odor is, he's Arlington's most premier amateur boxer.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
But yeah, Wimbledon's an amazing neighborhood. That's crazy to think that.
And I like to tell that story in Arlington because it hits close to home. It makes it more real, because I do a lot of stuff that people say is unbelievable. It's weird. I don't practice a normal area of law. But probate, guardianship, it's not what you see on TV. It's not what you see in Law and Order or Suits or
Judge Judy.
Some of the stories, maybe. But
Give me an example.
But I mean, a lot of it hits home because it's going to affect each and every one of you once in your lives. There are going to be special kids with special needs out there in the community, and our court handles all that. And we take our job very seriously. I always tell people, if you're having a bad day, come to my office and I'll show you a bad day.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people out there that are a lot worse off than we are. So I think what I do makes me feel a little bit more appreciative of what I have and what we all have in the community. And Arlington's been great so far to me. It's been really welcoming. My kids go to school in Arlington. I think I probably spend more time in Arlington than I do any other city other than Fort Worth where I work. So, but it's been a lot of fun getting to know everybody here, and
cool.
It's been great so far.
So we talk about district or court number one. What's kind of the area that encompasses? And I know it's a big chunk of Tarrant County.
Yeah, it's all of Tarrant County.
Oh, wow.
So we have two courts. That's why they call it court number one and court number two. So we have two courts. When you file a case, it just depends on really where the last case went. So attorneys can't come in and say, well, I want to be in court one or I want to be in court two. You just file it. The clerks randomly assign it to whatever court it hits. So it's not more of a district thing. It's just that's the number of courts we have. We have 3 county courts at law, 1, 2, and 3, but they don't encompass a district. So both Tarrant County 1 and 2 both serve all of Tarrant County.
Now, ultimately, what's the end goal? Because, probate court, judgeship, are you looking to do more public service down the road? Is this kind of, you're going to ride out a 20-year career on the court? What's the goal?
I've always been driven to public service. I'm on the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the city of Mansfield right now. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
I'm on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I just rolled off the Mansfield Chamber of Commerce Board. I've been through Leadership Mansfield. I was the president of the board in Leadership Mansfield. I'm on the board of Advisory Council. I'm the president of the Advisory Council of St. Joseph Catholic School.
Oh, wow.
So I've always had a heart to get involved and to make organizations better and to help lead them. But I want to be a probate judge. I always told people on this track that I've gotten that question a lot. What do you want to be after this? And I want to be a probate judge. There was an option for run to court 1 and court 2, and I worked in court 1. Court 1 I feel is kind of my home. I know the people. I love the people that work there. I respect them a lot. I've gotten to know them and their families over the years. So, probate court is going to be my home.
All right, I understand.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's either, in college or in law school and kind of like looking to pursue that path to either getting into law or public service or some sort of like political?
I'd say reach out to public servants in your area. The first thing I did when I moved to Mansfield is I reached out to David Cook. I didn't know him from anybody else on the street, but I knew that he was the mayor and I knew that he was an attorney. So I reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to set up an interview. And I remember walking in that day. He sat down. And he's like, "Well, Louis, I don't really know how this is gonna go. I don't know what you're looking for." And I said, "Well, I don't really know either. Let's just talk."
Right.
So sat down with him, sat down with some other public servants in the area, and said, "These are my goals. What are your thoughts?" Because they've done it before. They've run elections. They're attorneys. They're professionals. They have kids. So they understand kind of where you are in your life and, kind of what direction you need to go and what decisions you want to make. Do you want to get involved at the city level where you're still going to have to work your job?
Right.
Then you have your city, your city role, and then you have the commitments that come with that.
Right.
How many kids do you have? What are the demands on the household? Stuff like that. What does your wife do? Does she work? Does she not? And then, versus are you going to do, more of a judicial race, or it's a position or commissioner or whatnot where you're paid by the county. Okay. So that's your job, and then you still have all the stuff that comes with that, the speaking and being out in the community. And I think that's important, and that's the best way to meet your whole city council versus at a meeting is apply for one of those boards where they interview you. You get to sit down with everybody, city manager, city attorney, and that's your biggest audience right there. Sell yourself, say this is what I want to do. And they'll find a spot for you.
That probably applies to just about any field, as long as if you're persistent enough and you're willing to devote yourself to getting educated. Is probably just if there's something you want to do, find somebody who's doing it, reach out to them and learn from them as much as you can, and try and rub some elbows along the way. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get involved, and I think if you're not involved, you're just not trying, because you could call us up today and we can find a spot for you to meet and sit. And even from the state level, if you're interested in something from the state level, call Austin and say, "Hey, I want to get involved in the state level." There's hundreds of boards and committees that are missing members.
That applies to just about any field that anybody really wanted to be in, as long as you're passionate and you're willing to make the connections and find somebody else who's doing it. If somebody else did it, it means that you can too.
Yeah, it's just being proactive. So I mean, we have 4 kids, but we're out in the community. We make it work. We outkicked our coverage wife wise, so that helps.
No kidding.
That helps.
No kidding.
But it doesn't matter how old you are. I don't think it's ever too young to get involved, and that's what I think we need. We need more younger folks involved.
Me and a lot of the friends my age that I have right now are just now starting to find out where home is going to be for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And, it just so happened that I grew up in Arlington, that my dad developed this community for me to kind of grow into. You saw it at the men's club meeting. Those guys all know who I am because they've known me since I was, knee high. And that was one of the things that I never really took advantage of or really saw as an opportunity until I grew older. And now we've made Arlington our home, not necessarily out of necessity, but out of choice. Like, we've had the choice, and we decided to make Arlington our home, send our kids to this school district. All 4 of my kids were born at MCA, like right off of Matlock. And so I met my wife here, I got married here. This is home for me. And making that conscious choice now and actually starting to get involved, this is kind of what's led to me falling in love with the city over and over again, is because you start to meet the people, you develop relationships, you do things for other people, and it comes back to you in spades. So that would be my last thing that I wanted to ask you was, what advice would you give to somebody who's planning on making a move in the future, somewhere here in North Texas? What are your favorite things about this area, since you grew up around here as well?
I think find a church that you like to go to. When we moved back from Florida, we went to St. Pat's because we got married there. We should go there, and it just wasn't the fit for our family. So we went to St. Vincent de Paul, and it's a great community for kids. I mean, their children's program's incredible. 3 of our kids have gone through it. 3 of them now are at St. Joseph Catholic School, because it's kind of a feeder parish to St. Joe's. And you find, it's about finding where you're comfortable. I mean, I've taught 3-year-old Sunday school there. My wife's helping with First Communion training. I'm in men's. It's about getting involved, and it all starts there. Then I would say, Chamber of Commerce, the Arlington Chamber has been great. Just go to one of their events, and you can meet the entire city.
Wow.
That's been, that's one thing that I enjoy about the Arlington Chambers in the Arlington community is no matter whether you were a big shot or a president back in the 60s or 70s,
Right.
and you were an original Arlington person, or you're just getting started now, you see these folks out in the community, and that's what I think every community needs to strive for, is make sure that it's just not a group of people coming out for 3 or 4 years and then disappearing. It's people that come out all the time, every day for 30 years, and so when you're at an event, you're like family.
So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much, Louis, for
thanks,
coming.
man.
It was an
Appreciate
absolute
you. Yeah,
pleasure.
awesome.
So one of the biggest takeaways I want from this is, wherever you are, wherever you decide to move, make it your home. Get involved in the community, meet the people around, meet the people who are, making effective changes in your laws, in your community. People like Louis are who will, eventually have to make decisions for you and your family. So it's one of the things that's important to get to know him, so that he's really nice to you about your will. But all right, guys, thanks so much. That's a wrap for episode 1. Had a blast doing it. Thank you again so much, Louis, for coming out. It was a real pleasure being able to interview a local politician, especially somebody who's so involved in the community. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. I'll link my social media stuff down below. And if you like this video, or if you want to see more of what's going on in Arlington, or if you want to watch me pig out on some food here on the next episode, feel free to hit the subscribe button down at the bottom. And I brought you on the show because I've already decided to vote for you, and that's because I've had the opportunity to sit and get to know you a little bit. But, so far we know how many kids you've got, we know where you grew up, we knew where you got married. The only thing we really don't know is what size shoe you wear. What size shoe do you wear?
10.5.
10.5, okay. Yeah, so for those of you that, if you don't vote, you can at least find his office, send him some shoes in the mail.
Yes.
That's the best.
My shoes have got a lot of work out right